I don't think we have it here, but I remember a brochure that I saw some time ago with some really spectacular interior shots and so forth. I believe a courthouse and so forth.
Yes, that was just as time goes. We were actually, my first project with TBI back in 1987 was with St. Joseph Cathedral in downtown San Jose. On the verge of completion of that, the Loma Prieta earthquake hit, and while our building went unscathed after having gone through the structural renovation and upgrades, the Old County Courthouse, which was about four blocks away, is about the same vintage, 1866, sustained some major damage. And we ultimately became involved in that project, and that was really the birth of our construction management division. We normally don't work in the public sector, and that's when the company started. It was pretty much high-end tenant improvements and corporate clients, but we grew into this concept of the government side and the government work with our construction management multiple prime delivery system. And it was a very unique project. It was about 4 years of my life, and we pretty much invented the detailed breakdowns of what good multiple prime construction management is all about, and have been implementing that since the early 1990s. Since then, we've done about $300 million worth of public works, both schools and libraries and fire stations, and even the town centers in Los Altos Hills and also in Portola Valley. So that's been a very growing portion of our business, and it's based on the detail that we approach with the project. So.
And it sounds like it's all culminated into this Oscar here, although, but this is the Oscar for our local area. This represents, you know, a high watermark of success, and you might talk about having been selected Contractor of the Year and how important that is, especially in a downturn economy, to maintain the high standards that you all demand of yourselves and what is demanded of you.
Yeah, certainly this was a tremendous honor for our company, and even being considered as a nominee with some of the great names of construction companies within the Valley and within the Bay Area, it was an honor. To be awarded the award was really a surprise to me. It was an interesting review process, but a lot of times people tend to get lost in the biggest is the best, and we don't believe in that philosophy. We came from a very big company that we believe was the best, but based on our level of commitment and what we want to achieve within our communities, we felt that we keep our company at a certain size so that we could pay attention to the detail that we believe is required to make projects successful. And this was a great recognition with the Business Journal, who we have a lot of faith in, and we do some advertising with them, and they put on some terrific events that from time to time we sponsor. But to be recognized by architects and brokers and the people on the selection committee was just sort of a validation of what we're doing as a mission within our company.
I understand you have a philosophy about promises that goes right with the statements you've just been making.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we were featured in a national magazine about 4 years ago, and one of the things that was key on the cover was promises made or promises kept. And it goes back to the philosophies that both Chuck and Dan imparted on me back in the Swenson days and what we've continued on as a company. But our whole basis for our business model is service, and construction's our best byproduct. In light of that, it's all about management of expectations, and along with that, of course, are the promises that you make once you understand what your client's expectations are. So we believe very strongly in that. That's sort of our mantra around the company, and we continue to implement it to this day.
And I understand we have a couple of video samples of promises that you've made and the projects and promises that were kept. Why don't we look at the slide-based one first?
That'd be great. So what we're looking at here is a little snippet from a presentation Ben and I gave Tuesday this week to the Campbell Rotary, and it really features a sustainable project that Jim, you know quite a bit about. It's the Portola Valley Town Center. And this was a project in Portola Valley that was completed in 2008-2009, of an interesting project that basically was developed because of the location of where the buildings for the old town hall were. Basically, the San Andreas Fault runs right through the site, and they were occupying an old school facility. So the concept was to move the buildings towards the back of the site, and then replace the area where the fault was primarily running through with the fields, so that the buildings could be a little bit farther away from where the actual seismic events were happening. But what was unique about this was that the town, for a $20 million project, as a public project, this was completely financed by private donation. And this was a real leadership statement for a community that I have a lot of respect for, and the people that I learned to know on council and within the township. But the project eventually utilized and recycled almost all of the components on the site, and that included a lot of the school, where we had to phase the project in such a way that it made sense because this was an occupied facility. People were still using the fields, still using the town hall, so we had to make a number of adjustments. And another key feature for this project was that at the end of the project it was determined that there was an old creek that used to run through the site, and we were actually able to daylight this creek and restore it. So that was a real key contributor towards our environmental leadership in targeting this project for a LEED Platinum award. This project was recently honored, a number of awards so far, but as one of the top 10 in the country by the American Institute of Architects, that was awarded at the National Convention this year. It was in San Francisco. But we reused lumber that was within the school, the old school. It was remilled up at a factory and a mill up in Santa Rosa, and then brought back, and we utilized that material for the siding that you see and many of the structural members and the framing that were inside. We also developed some unique wood windows working with Forest Stewardship Council's certified wood, and this is basically following the growth of wood all the way from seed to harvest, and this is one way to control how we're utilizing our forests in a controlled environment. Also kind of went back to some of the older styles of heating, and buildings all have what's called a radiant heating system in the slab, and that's basically just pumping hot water through those plastic tubes that you see and providing the heat from the slab structure. Very efficient way, especially when you can control heating from the source at the water point and then just pushing it through the building. We also worked quite a bit with concrete, which is one of the biggest culprits when it comes to CO2 emissions. But this is a high slag concrete mix, which is displacing the cement particles with byproduct waste from the steel fabrication, the slag. So we're taking a waste product and putting it and combining it with a cementitious material, displacing the particle that is pretty harmful to the environment to manufacture, and coming up with a byproduct very strong. And the other piece is the thermal masses that we used there in a couple of locations, and this is another old concept, but basically big chunks of concrete or rock heated by a solar source can retain heat for a while and off heat later on into the evening, so it reduces your need for manufactured heating. And finally, which was one of the fun ones for the project, even harvesting some of the trees and clearing some of those areas, they were actually remilled, and we utilized the redwoods to create the bleacher structures that are now for the baseball fields. And also harvested a couple of those tree trunks that you see on the right on the next slide. We were able to incorporate those into, one more slide please, incorporate those into the structural elements of the building, and they are actually used as vertical support systems for the building.
Well, I would like to thank you personally. My wife Helen and I attended the ribbon cutting for this facility and have seen your interior milled tree trunks
Yes.
and so forth. It's really nice. Thank you very, very much.
It was our pleasure to build it. Certainly it was the brainchild of a lot of people. Larry Strain, Siegel and Strain, and Jim Goring from Goring and Strada, the architects, had quite a bit to do with the leadership of us all learning more and more about the green process. We were very fortunate to be able to implement that and bring it to success.